Hey, it's Jack. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through step by step how to effectively handle the most common objection that you're going to face as a sales professional. For anyone who's new to my channel, my name is Jack Middleton, and I've generated personally over $5 million in sales as a sales professional for the businesses that I've worked with. During that time, I've worked for some of the world's leading companies, including 2 years at Google, where I was consistently one of the top reps on the team. All right, without further ado, let's jump in. Now, there's really four steps to this process. And the first step that most people are completely unaware of, and I was also very unaware when I first started out as a sales professional, is the concept of self image. Okay. Now, this is something that I've recorded multiple videos on. It's really the 80-20 here in terms of the biggest needle mover to your success as a sales rep from a longevity standpoint and a consistency standpoint. It's the number one thing that took me from being on a winning team, selling a winning product, but still struggling and being on the brink of being fired, which was at Google at the time, to then consistently becoming one of the top reps on the team, quarter on quarter, smashing my sales targets, and going on to have a great sales career. Okay, so that's how important this stuff is. So what I'd suggest is obviously watch today's video because there's some incredibly important things I'm going to cover. But do take the time to go and watch my other videos and implement the things around self-image. Okay, so I'll just put down the other three steps and then I'll go through them one by one. So step 2 is going to be diffuse. Step 3 is going to be flip. Step 4 is going to be truth. So the other prerequisite to effective objection handling, for this I need to think about objection, is really going to be ensuring that you've done a effective discovery process and pitch, because it's really your responsibility as a sales rep to pull out the pain in the prospect. We'll see if they even have pain in the first place. Pull that pain out, make them feel it, and also get a clear understanding of their goals, their dream outcome, their desires, to really build that gap and that internal desire for them to want to change in the first place. Because what this is going to give you is ammunition to then hold them accountable at the end of the call to do effective objection handling. Okay? And assuming you've done that, and assuming you've done a pitch that clearly demonstrates how you and your company can solve that pain point and get them to their dream outcome, then you're going to be positioned to effectively handle not just this objection, but any objection that the prospect gives you. Okay? Hopefully that's all making sense. And once you're at this point, then where they throw the objection, they say, "Oh yeah, look, it all sounds good, but I just need to think about it." It's the most common objection, and really, what you need to understand here is an objection is just a fancy way for saying no, I'm not interested, I'm not making the decision. But the thing that a lot of people misunderstand about I need to think about it specifically is the fact that it's a smokescreen for the true objection. Because if you think about it logically, like, I need to think about it. It's such a pathetic objection. Like, it, you know, it's there's no substance to it. It doesn't make sense, especially if during that call, they've told you where they want to get to, their goals and problems are aligned with your solution. It doesn't make logical sense for them not to want to move forward just because they want to think about it. It doesn't make sense. There's another problem at play here, and it's your job through this process that I'm going to explain to flush out the real objection. Right. So now that you've understood that, it's time to diffuse the objection. So prospect says, I need to think about it. You say, that's not a problem. And what this does is it releases all sales pressure from the objection. Once you've done that, it's then time to start to move on to step 3, which is to flip the conversation and flip the leadership and control of the conversation back in your favor, where you can turn it from a no conversation into a yes conversation, just gradually. And what you're going to ask the prospect is, just so I understand, you can say, just so I understand, or do you mind if I ask, in your opinion, do you feel like what I've proposed on today's call can get you to dream outcome or whatever outcome that they told you? It's always good to use their language and their goal that's specific to them. And typically, if you've got to this point in the call, they're going to say, yeah, they do. And you're going to be like, okay, great. How come you feel like this can get you to XYZ? And this then gives the prospect a chance to start telling you why they think that this can get them to where they want to get to. But the important thing at play here is not only are they telling you, but they're telling themselves. And the most effective form of persuasion is when a prospect persuades themselves by telling themselves all of the reasons that they want to, all of the reasons they believe this will work for them and get them to their goal. Okay? So you're employing here the most effective form of persuasion. This is backed by many professionals who've used this successfully, and it works because it's scientifically the most effective way to persuade. So at this point, you flip the conversation, and now it's time to get to the truth, okay? So now it's really just about asking them, just so I understand then, in terms of you wanting to go and think about this, what comes up for you to want to go and do that, just to see if I can actually help. Again, coming from that leadership frame of just to see if I can actually help. And again, it's very, very neutral language. But really what you're giving the prospect an opportunity now to do is to tell you the truth. See what's really going on. Like, typically, there's one of a few objections that are the real objections. Typically, money is a big one. They have to speak to their spouse, whether that's husband, wife. Another big one is logistics, maybe actually moving the money around versus not being able to afford it. Or it could be timing. Maybe they don't think they have enough time to commit to it. Or another one that's, a little bit a little bit more misunderstood is fear. Okay? And what a lot of people don't understand, and they lose a lot of sales calls, is that sometimes a prospect just won't admit that they're afraid, right? Because typically at this point, they're going to tell you all of the other ones. They're going to explain if it's one of those, which you can then proceed to handle and effectively navigate and close. But sometimes the prospect is very arrogant and they don't want to admit to you that they're afraid of making the decision. So at that point, if you haven't flushed out a clear objection, what I've personally done that's worked well for me in the past is said, oh, okay, man, like, you know, just so I understand that, and, you know, off the record, do you think is it just a little bit of fear, a little bit of nerves? And this really gives the prospect an opportunity to admit, you know what, they are a bit afraid. And then you can go down the path of handling fear, which is a completely different video. But that's really the options that it's going to lead you to. And the whole crux of this and the whole core message of this is it's going to flush out the true objection so that you can effectively handle it. Okay? That's really it for today's video. It's a very simple but very effective process. To summarize, it starts with your self-image. You cannot outperform your self-image. If you do, it'll be short-lived. Just like a plane that's on autopilot, as soon as it goes off track, even off track in a positive sense where you're making more money, you'll quickly find ways to self-sabotage and you'll be back to the level of your self-image. So step one is making sure your self-image is actually aligned with you making more money as a sales professional. Step two is diffusing the objection. Step three is flipping it from a no conversation into a yes conversation. And then step four is getting to the truth. Not being afraid to challenge the prospect and understanding that you're doing them a disservice if you don't ask the difficult questions, especially if you have a solution to their problems. And that's really it. It's as simple as that. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you found it valuable. What I will say is if you are a sales professional and you really want to take your sales ability and your performance to the next level in terms of your commissions and your earning ability, I'd like to invite you to join my free 10-day school challenge where you can come in, go through the mini course that I've put together that's going to cover all of this in a lot more detail. And yeah, would love to see you inside. So that's all for today's video, guys. I will see you in the next one.